Good day. This is your host, Christian Sasse on SassePhoto, giving another exciting broadcast here about eagles. What is so exciting, my friends, about Eagle broadcasts is that it's live. You are interacting, and whilst I'm reading, I'm getting such interesting information. Today's broadcast indeed promises to be interesting. The subject is about Miles Brown's encounter, which happened around the end of May of 2011. He was at that time, and I believe, working together with Lattice Fuentes, who I think was the biologist there, working for Dr. William Bowerman. And I'm reading this off the screen. This is what's so wonderful. I'm reading this off the screen for those of you watching the replay as part of the encounter. Really exciting. So I just need a quick feedback from everyone. Is the sound coming across? Sometimes I don't know how good the audio is. Just give me a quick feedback on the audio and we'll jump right into the interview. So thank you everyone for being here. I see lots of familiar names. And then I'll jump straight in. I'm just going to wait because there's always a little bit of delay of about 30 seconds until I get some feedback. And then we'll jump in, just to be sure. In the meantime, welcome. Sounds perfect. Thank you, Lattice. Thank you, Deagle, Linda. So I'm off. I'm going to just switch over the sound. I'm going to switch my microphone off 1 second, and we'll do the switch now. Thank you for the feedback. Hello, everyone. Today we have the pleasure of having Miles Brown. I know I have told you a lot about him in the past, and you've been asking a lot about him. Where is his whereabouts? Because we saw his wonderful video, and really unique, I think, where he had a GoPro or something similar. He was climbing the nest. And finally, Miles Brown has been out in the field a lot, and I finally got a hold of him. So I'm very, very delighted to have you today, Miles. Welcome. Welcome to SassePhoto, my channel.
Well, thanks. Good to be here.
Very nice to have you. I mean, we are very, very excited to hear what actually happened. I know it's been a long time, but tell us a little bit about yourself. Tell us also then, jumping back into time, how you got involved, what happened at the nest. So it's all to you now, please.
All right. Yes, this took place 6 years ago. I was getting my bachelor's degree in wildlife biology at Clemson University in South Carolina. And one of the PhD students was doing a project in Michigan. It had been going on since the 1960s, looking at bioaccumulation in the bald eagles, specifically DDT and heavy metals. And so my job as a field technician was to climb into these bald eagle nests, and I would put the chicks one at a time in a duffel bag and lower them to the biologist, and she would take feather samples and blood samples, and then I would replace them into the nest. So this was a video of one of 29 nests that I climbed into over the course of a month. It was the month of May. Yeah.
Right, and so what type of trees were there? Because typically in our areas we have Douglas fir trees. What type of trees did you climb? Do you remember that?
Yeah, it was usually northern white pines and aspen trees.
Right. And how high would you typically climb?
Usually average about 75 or 80 feet tall. I think my record was 120 feet to the nest.
70, and tell us about, so was there anything unusual when you went up these trees? I mean, that's a lot of trees you climbed.
Right. Yeah, occasionally I would get porcupines that were living in abandoned nests. So you never really knew what you were going to get until you get up there. That happened twice. I had porcupines. Yeah, usually it was straightforward bald eagle nest. You never knew what was going to be in it as far as rotting, decaying fish and fun stuff like that, or how the eagles would react to me being there.
So was it fairly warm when you were climbing there, or what was the temperature like in the environment?
When I first got there at the beginning of May, it was pretty cool every day. Probably 40s, 50s. It's hard to remember 6 years ago. Then by the end of the month, it was pretty warm, probably in the 80s, 90s.
And tell me, at that time, were you? Did you have a GoPro camera already? Because I was amazed at the good quality when you actually climbed this tree. So
Right. Actually, I just had a digital camera. I forget. I think it was a Sony. I ended up leaving it in a bald eagle's nest at one point. Um,
really.
and yeah, I left it in the nest, and I came back to that same nest about 2 weeks later, and the bald eagle had moved it to the other side of the nest and buried it underneath some nest material. So I was able to retrieve the camera, but it was totaled. It was full of dirt and debris and destroyed. But yeah, I
And
just
that's interesting. Did you actually have a protocol that you had to follow, that you had to record everything, or was that your own idea to record
it
things?
was just on my own. I didn't record every nest. It was just when something, especially at the beginning, it was new to me, so I was recording a lot. And then later on, if something really interesting was going on, such as in this case with the baby hawk, I recorded that.
Yeah, so can you recall again? I know it's been quite some time now, but can you recall what happened then?
Yes. So I climbed into this nest, and in every other situation, it's either one to three bald eagles, and they're all the same age or same size because they all hatched within a few days of each other. In this case, I got up there, and there was two eaglets that were probably 6 to 7 weeks old, so they were pretty big. And then nestled in beside them was this little white fluffy chick. So being new to this, I was confused, didn't know what was going on, didn't make any sense. Um, and for a while we were debating maybe we thought maybe it was a bald eagle baby at first, and we weren't sure why it would be so far behind the others. Um, and then later we identified it as a red-tailed hawk. And it was interesting because the hawk was in very good condition. It was up and walking around the nest, seemed to be doing fine.
Yeah, and what happened then? Once did you identify that from the footage of the film, or did you check again to see what type of bird that was?
We used the footage, the video, as well as some photos that I took close up, and we could identify it that way.
And was there any surprise or think, oh well, we've seen this before?
It was pretty surprising. I think it had been seen before occasionally, but it was really rare. So it definitely took us off guard.
And what was the reaction? Okay, that is unusual. And were there any speculations what could have happened? How did the little hawk get there?
Yes, my supervisor did believe that it was a prey that survived. They thought the parents may have brought it in as food, and it lived. Personally, I believe more parasitism, where the hawk laid the egg there, because
Really?
the uh, the chick wasn't in such good condition. It didn't seem to be injured at all in any way. I feel like if the parent eagle brought it in, it would have been in rough shape, especially being as young and fragile as it was. But it seemed to be completely fine.
This is really interesting what you're saying now because there's a lot we had exactly at the Sydney nest a lot of discussion which I think is very healthy for science. It doesn't matter whether you're a doctor or whoever you are, science is based on facts, and whoever can prove the most of the facts, that is the way science goes. That's why I enjoy science so much. And there comes my question, because it's very interesting. We know, for example, we know from a hawk that the nesting period is typically around 42 to 45 days, if I remember correctly. So looking maybe at the pictures of the little hawk in the nest, were there any ideas of how old this little hawk could have been when you took when you took the footage?
I'm not sure exactly. It definitely was really young,
Hmm.
uh, really early along in the development stages. It was just a white fluff ball. So I would say maybe a week or two, but that's
Yes.
I'm not
Yes,
really sure.
yes, yes. That I mean, I'm no hawk expert, but that seems to be about correct. Just the way it was, the size difference was incredible. I mean, it is
Right.
really an amazing footage you have. But that brings me to the question, because I don't know. Do you know typically in your area when eagle eggs are laid, what the approximate time in the year is there?
Yeah, they're usually late around February.
Right. So it's earlier than us. So it's
Right.
about a month earlier. So you see, so let's say they were laid mid-February and they would have hatched, let's say mid-March, somewhere well, it's 35 days or something like that after that. I think
Yeah. Probably around mid-April, because I was there beginning of May, and they
Right.
were
So
so
okay, okay. So the eagles, how old do you think the eagles were? Just a few weeks, right? I
yeah,
think you
probably
said
about 7 weeks, somewhere around
seven,
8 or 9 weeks they fledged, and they
exactly
were
7 weeks. So now comes the interesting question, and I mean everything is possible. Okay, everything's possible. Um, because this is what you are. What you're suggesting there is exactly what one biologist is also suggesting, who's at the Sydney nest. He says it's, in his opinion, very likely that the nests that the eggs were deliberately laid by a red-tailed hawk, and that brings me to so many questions. Why would a red-tailed hawk do that? Is it like the cuckoo's nest, or what is it?
yeah. I mean, it's I think here in the States, red-tailed hawks have been seen doing that before. It's called parasitism, it's where they lay their egg in another bird's nest, and basically it's just a cheating way of genetic dispersal, just getting their genes out there into the environment any way they can, the easiest that they can.
Very interesting. The only and then another big the difficulty I only see with that position is at that time, of course, the eagles are very much around the nest. They do leave the nest maybe for 2-3 minutes, maybe a bit
Right.
longer if you're lucky. But that means the red-tailed hawk must have, the timing would have been immaculate to do something like that.
Correct. Yeah, it's definitely a mystery as to how it got in there without the parents around. I don't know if both parents were in that nest. Um, it could be possible that something happened to one of the adults, so maybe one adult was gone for a longer period of time. But that's just speculation. It could easily have had both parents, and
Mm.
if both parents are there, usually one time. So I'm not sure how it could have snuck in there.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because this biologist I talked to about yesterday, he would completely support what you're saying, which is very different to David Hancock's and Professor Bird's position here. But again, this is why the discussion is so important. And he would I don't remember this person's name yesterday. I'll have to see. But he told me yesterday, he came up to me and he said he doesn't agree with Hancock and Professor Bird, because he would support what you're saying. And he said also that at the Sydney nest where we are, the distance between the red-tailed hawk area and the eagle area is very large. Of course, that can vary from territory to territory, because sometimes red-tailed hawks can live right next to eagle territories, right? I don't know how it is in your area or where you were.
Yeah, I would imagine they overlap, especially in the area that I was. It's pretty intact wilderness in most of those areas. I'm pretty sure I saw hawks and eagles in the same areas. I certainly have in other places in the States seen bald eagle sharing territories with different birds of prey.
Yeah, now of course, what everybody's going to ask you, what happened to the hawk? Any idea?
Unfortunately, I have no idea. I climbed every nest one time except for the one I left my camera in. So it's really impossible to know.
And your supervisor, did you have any discussion with him? Because the question then, of course, is also about the food. Of course, eagles mainly, at least in our area, mainly eat fish, and red-tailed hawks have a very different diet, more on rodents and so on. So uh, there's so many questions that come up. If the if the eggs were laid indeed in the nest, it would be much easier for the eagle to then adopt the egg and then to say, well, that's the one that I'm going to look after. That would make complete sense. It's more difficult to believe once they are brought into the nest, to say these are first, they're going to be food, and then suddenly, that's David Hancock's theory, something switches in their brains and say, hey, wait a minute, this looks similar to ours. It's the call, the high-pitched, monotonous call of the red-tailed hawk. It's the form of the beak, and I don't know. It's certain. There's certain instinct in the eagle that prevents them from feeding on this, different to maybe a crow or a duck or anything else they bring into the nest. That's his. But your suggestion would be easy to understand, because once they hatch, the eagle then recognizes it as their own and will raise it, right?
Right.
Now I forgot what I was going to ask. Hang on. Now I lost my thread, but never mind. It'll come back because it's there are just so many questions that come up here, but it's also the behavior then, of course, of the red tail. Will it think it's an eagle or will it think it's a red tail hawk? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I don't know. Um, yeah, I have no idea. That's a good point. I mean, if it's just eating fish, is it going to start eating fish? Hey, most of the nests they were preying mostly on fish, but they're also really dependent on roadkill in that area. So there was
Exactly.
a lot of roadkill, and places near landfills, there was bags of trash that an eagle picked up and took to the nest. So.
Yeah, well, that's quite interesting. So, anyway, are you going to get back into this ever?
I wish I could. That project's over. It had been going since the 1960s, and I was actually on the last season that it was going. So since then, I've been bouncing around doing different seasonal wildlife technician projects all around the states. So yeah, I would love to get back into climbing. Well, we'll see.
Very good, Mal. Do you have any other comments? Have you looked at this? I don't know. I know you've been very much in the middle of nowhere. You probably didn't have any time. But have you seen any footage on this recent nest? Did that surprise you? Our Sydney nest here, all the discussion going on.
I saw one of your videos. It was really great footage. I would definitely like to look at more of your videos. I have been out and about. I'm on a wildfire crew now, and I was in Utah when you first contacted me, and I've been in and out of service, mostly out of service. So, yeah.
Well, very good, Miles. Anyway, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. I think so. I will convey all your interesting ideas to all the listeners, and they will certainly find this interesting. And maybe in future we could also get in contact with the supervisor you were working with, just to try and understand what the possibilities here, because obviously this seems to be something new that hasn't been explored very much. At least that's my current view. I may be wrong, so I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll see if I can dig up the contact information. Like I said, it's been 6 years, and I haven't talked to them in 6 years. So, but yeah, I'll see what I can do.
Okay, thank you, Miles. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure talking to you. Take care. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'm back now. I hope you enjoyed that. Yes, of course, I'm reading all your comments as they come in. I apologize for not making this clear. What this was, I talked to Miles Brown yesterday. Yesterday, around this time, this is a pre-recorded Skype interview. This is a live event with a pre-recorded Skype interview, but it's 1 day old. It's easy for me to do it pre-recorded because I want to blend in and so on. Since again, I'm doing this all myself. As long as I don't have help, I'm blending in all I can. Okay. What you do see in the background is really interesting. This is an email I later received from Miles Brown, in fact, yesterday. As you look at the tree, you can see this is the same tree he's talking about. And this massive tree has been attacked by a beaver. Look at the beaver damage. It's incredible. So we don't actually know whether the tree ever made it. Did it ever fall down or so? We don't know. What is also interesting, because we can open the discussion, as you can see, there are endless questions. We've come a little bit closer to possibly understanding what has happened and how the hawklet got there. But we have two opposing hypotheses at the moment that are completely different. And we have Lattice Fuentes here, who had actually been there. And I'm just reading her comments, which at the moment I really want to prioritize as it is part of this discussion. Unfortunately, the replay viewers cannot see the comments, but they're absolutely crucial for this discussion. You see, there are two opposing, let me just summarize, there are two opposing hypotheses here. The one is that David Hancock and Professor Bird believe, which seems to make sense. All of them make sense that the red-tailed hawklets were brought in as prey, as food. We've seen similar things. We haven't seen them on red-tailed hawks, but we've seen ducks, we've seen crows, we've seen squirrels, and all that brought in via the cameras. And then some escape. They don't actually get crushed by the by the pressure of the raptors. There's a biologist in the area, just as much as Miles Brown does not agree with this. Their hypothesis, and I'm calling it a hypothesis because nobody seems to have enough evidence at the moment, unless we have a red tail expert here who can say this is a typical behavior. Which brings me to the second point: is it possible that that the red tail hawk has this cuckoo, or what he calls this parasitic behavior of deliberately laying eggs into the nest? That would mean that the eaglets, who are very much present during the, especially during the incubation and also the first weeks of the eaglet being around, very difficult to come into the nest directly. That's the issue we have with this hypothesis. Still, everything's possible. There seem to be other cases. This is as far as we've come. So those of you who've just joined, what you're looking there is the same tree that Miles Brown climbed up. That's the climbed up, heavily attacked by a beaver. I had never known this. This is all new information, that beavers can be such threats also to eagle nests. And you heard about the porcupine occupations of nests and so on. So all this is new, interesting information. I will open the discussion. I would love to interview here someone, one or two in our audience. Yeah, I would love to sorry, it's Latris. I misspelled the name. So it's Latrice. Latris. Latris, not lattice, sorry. Latris. I'm very happy you are here, and I believe you were there at this time, and I would love to interview you too, because what's really important is to understand, you know, what is likely to have happened here. It's very difficult for you to comment because you can only type in at the moment, but I will definitely give your comments priority here, since this is the topic of our discussion. So I don't know if you have any comments to add. So I'll happily take them, and we could do another another separate interview on this, and I'll just. Whilst I'm talking, I'll just in the background show you again the video of this just very, very young hawklet, and probably something very similar happened here in the Sydney nest. So really interesting discussion, and we've come a lot further, but we simply do not know what really happened. Nobody has seen it. Very interesting. So. Yeah, by the way, I can recognize a lot of your names. Also, a lot of comments yesterday about the auctions. Thank you for participating. Thank you for all your generosity towards the Hancock Wildlife Foundation. Greatly appreciated. A lot of improvisation was there. I will find a hawk expert. There are two hawk experts I know at the moment, Jacqueline Douglas. I do know of two. One of them is called, I think, Peter Bloom, and I will try and get hold of him. And there's another one in the US who's also red tail hawk expert, and I will get hold of them. It's absolutely crucial at this stage. So maybe this parasitic behavior is more common than we think. Hi, Eric, Nature Photography, and I recognize so many of your names. Dana, oh my goodness, I have to just scroll up the screen on my other screen. This is much better doing this at home because I have so much better possibilities to follow all your comments. It's much more difficult out there on the field. But I think this is all very exciting. By the way, if you're wondering, yesterday was so much fun. It was. Here's Latris, or Latis. I'm sorry if I mispronounce your name. I think Miles did a wonderful job explaining. The videos and photos are amazing. I can try to put you in touch with the professor in charge of the project, and who also has seen this previously. That is a great thing, Lattice. So it is ALTICE. My apologies for misreading your name. That would be wonderful. We would like to keep on discussing this. Yes, I have become an auctioneer. We've had a lot of auction. I've become a very poor auctioneer. I apologize. I never knew I would do auctioning yesterday. But I wanted to thank all of you. Really, I wanted to thank all of you from my heart. it has been so wonderful how you helped the Hancock Wildlife Foundation yesterday, which is crucial for their survival. That has been absolutely incredible. Yeah, and there are more comments here coming in. I'm not an expert, but have done lots of reading about red-tailed hawks. Never seen anything about parasitic behavior, says Jackie Laughlin. Interesting again, yes. And we need to, you know, there are so many opposing strong opinions. We can have strong opinions, but strong opinions don't make things right. They don't make facts right. I'm very much a scientist, and I also question myself. That's maybe the difference between scientists and politicians. We scientists question a lot of things we do, politicians don't. And that's the problem that scientists have. Okay. Do you know, will the hawk leave the nest permanently before the eagles? Another great question. I have an opinion on that from what I've read, Diane. The hawks seem to be fed much longer by their parents than the eaglets do. We do know in the wild from David Hancock's previous experience over decades that eaglets get rather aggressive in the wild, and very soon the parents abandon the eaglets. Anyhow, but also that in the urbanized environment, there have been observations on the Florida nest and other nests with the nest cams that now the parents seem to be looking longer after their their eaglets, and maybe they're changing more into the behavior of the red-tailed hawks, which we observe in the wild, where indeed they are there with their parents for 2 to 4 weeks. Actually, that would support the hypothesis of the cuckoo behavior of the red-tailed hawk, because it seems to be very much in synchronization with the cycle of the incubation and the nesting time of the eagle. Okay, very, very, very interesting things here. There's a raptor center as well, says Jolie. Yes. And Amanda says, had people come in and out, missed you too. So glad I found Christian, Miles, and David Hancock. That's great. Thank you so much, and really thank you for all your support. I definitely have, I know I have a very unique channel. It is something I'm building up from my heart, and I will continue doing so. By the way, don't miss it. I'm going to be back out at the Sydney nest on coming Thursday. You will see me live stream, taking the ferry again across, and back on Friday. Saturday I will be leaving for Australia, and then we're switching all the way to astrophotography. And I'm sure, I hope you'll enjoy it. It's going to be live astrophotography, live things of the Milky Way. And then I will go to Singapore, where I'm invited at the Science Center. I'm invited as a speaker there, and we'll also give some workshops there, and I will try and broadcast a little bit from Singapore and give you a feel of Singapore too. So stay tuned to my channel. I'll keep on reinventing myself, and you're helping with a lot of your ideas. Here come some more questions. What if the red-tailed hawk behavior has changed in more recent years? Absolutely. You know, that is also a possibility. Yes, says Zero C. I couldn't see that. Yes, also that is a valid behavior. Of course, they will all change, and we certainly are not fast enough to catch up. All we know that with the 50 to 100 eagle cams that we have now in North America, that they're helping a lot to understand the behavior, and often the observers of all the cameras are becoming incredible experts, much more experts than often the biologists are, because they observe them day and night, and we're learning from it's very much a learning curve. So it's really wonderful. Julie, I see Amanda Price also. I've enjoyed watching YouTube videos. Very good. And Julie says, is there some way you can notify everyone an email ahead of time? Julie, that is a great question. All I know is that there is a notification button. Don't forget to press the notification button on my channel. Unfortunately, you can go via my Twitter channel. I also have Twitter, SassePhoto, but I cannot email all of you because I don't have your email addresses. That's the one thing. If you do join my Twitter account, same handle, SassePhoto, I do send out notifications. There are two different ways of notifications. Now I'm running an event. Events can be announced. What I cannot do is I've got my cell phone. My cell phone, when I'm out on the field doing this for the Sydney Nest, when I go to Australia, I'll be using my cell phone, and I have no way of announcing an event other than using Twitter, because the mobile app on my cell on the cell for YouTube doesn't allow for event announcement. I think that is something that may be developed in future. So I'm definitely on the cutting edge of technology with the things that I'm doing, with the with the cameras and all the things you're doing. As far as I know, I'm the only one so far that has the abilities of doing that, and also that will change. I think as the years progress, we're going to see technology evolve and more people doing what I'm doing here, especially with the large long lenses. Okay, I was told, says Jacqueline, parents feed off nest up to a year. The eagles and dates. That is interesting. Jacqueline, that would be new to me. What we have, I can tell you what we have observed, and I've been observing at the White Rock Nest, where we have several cameras for a number of years, and what I've seen myself is that typically they would fledge around this time. They would leave the nest by the end of July, and then they take the winds of the North Pacific, and they would then fly northwards to the salmon. The salmon season starts very much in the north, and they are basically scavengers. So they don't stay with their parents again. The parents typically, if I remember correctly, return sometime mid-end September. And that is exactly the crucial window that organizations, Raptor Centers and Hancock Wildlife Foundation centers have to repair any nests or to install new webcams. You should not install webcams once the eagles come back, because they are likely to abandon their nest. There are exceptions again, but it's very, very important to fit into the behavior of an eagle. I have not heard that they are longer around, they feed them longer. That is new to me, but typically it would be a few weeks. But it is true that the eaglets do come back to the same area. For sure they do, because they seem to be circling around the nests, and you can easily recognize whether an eaglet is 1 or 2 years old. Okay, so that's what we know. Okay. Here's more. With habitats being destroyed and new conservation efforts applied, maybe maybe it's not just these type of birds that change the behaviors. Yes, absolutely. Oh, this is way beyond. This is such a complex subject you're touching on, because we are so much changing the environment, and everything is changing at a very rapid rate. It is also the intertidal zones that are affected. Intertidal zones, for example, are very crucial for the feeding of eagles, as we learned, because the midshipment cycle is very important. So if everything starts changing, all the cycles start changing. The of the incredible problems we've had with fish farms on salmons and so on. You probably read about it. I don't have an opinion on this because I'm absolutely no expert, but David Suzuki from Suzuki Society has often commented on that, and if you want to, maybe I can get David Suzuki one day to comment on this. He knows a lot more about salmon fish farming than I do, and there are other experts. And certain salmon fish farms are then associated with eagles, with bears, with fox, with all kinds of wildlife, and all that is affected. And it goes all the way down the food chain, all the way to the trees that get their fertilization and so on from there. So your comment is absolutely valid. It's a very good comment. Yeah, thank you. I'm getting dizzy on Periscope. Okay, getting dizzy. I'll just let me just show you this again. This is the tree, by the way. This is the tree that where the hawk eagle nest was, and this is the same tree that Miles Brown took. I think this photo wasn't probably taken from him, but probably from someone else who was with him at that time. But you can see the beaver damage there. I found this picture absolutely stunning to see, and it's nearly scary. I mean, goodness me, this tree will fall any moment. Okay. Not just bird species, dogs will nurse and raise cats, elephants have dog companions, and so Absolutely, and it is very complex. I mean, it goes all the way to climate change and many, many other things. So it's a very, very complex subject, and it's unfortunately we are part of a big laboratory that we're destroying ourselves. Unfortunately, I have to give this negative comment, but it is the way it is. We definitely have to be much more responsible with the environment. That is for sure. Well, so do remember, please, again, thank you for all the donations to the Hancock Wilder Foundation, and excuse my amateurish auctioneer improvisation. I have responded to so many emails. I've improvised wherever I could. I do want to thank you for the generous, you have nearly tripled the amounts that they could usually usually they would raise about $1,000. They're now around $3,000. Thanks to all of you. Thanks to all of your interest and so on in wildlife. That is greatly appreciated, and that has made the event yesterday, the Fledge Fest at the Hancock Wilder Foundation, a big success. So I just wanted to thank you on behalf of the Hancock Wildlife Foundation for that. And you know, there are many imperfections. I think next year the effort will be much better, and now we know the way this works. Okay, so I'm going to keep on running. Yes, Christian, do you know what kind of bird was calling out during his visit on the nest? I don't know. I didn't listen to that because I was. I need to go back to the audio. I'm no bird expert, especially my main interest is in raptors. So I would have to ask someone maybe who's here in the audience and can answer that question. Okay, very good question. Thanks to Stephen Hawkins and his Eagle family. Absolutely, yes. So thank you, everyone. Thank you for your participation. It's so nice when I see your comments. I know all of you by your handle now. So many I recognize now. It's an absolute pleasure. We're becoming a very good community here, and it gives me more passion to drive my own passion even further and make it more interesting. So do watch out. On Thursday, I will possibly post a few more videos during the week. I'll be back out on Thursday. It'll be an unannounced event, but expect something probably around 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Thursday, and I'll be doing 1 or 2 broadcasts, and then a final broadcast Friday morning. We'll take the ferry back and get ready for my flight to Australia on Saturday. So a lot coming up, and a lot of things to a lot of things to prepare. And thank you to my friend Mark Horner, who has been incredible support as always in the background. He's got a lot of professional reporter experience that is very valuable, and it's certainly, I have been listening a lot to Mark. Beyond 90 Seconds is his Twitter handle for all the support. So thank you again for the participation. Now I'll just jump to the other screen, and let's see now. So I'll end this event, and I think it's been another successful event. I'll keep on driving this, my friends. Thumbs up and thumbs eagles, thumbs up to the eagles, and let's keep the energy up, and let's make this a wonderful success for the future. Let's keep on running SassePhoto. Thank you. Have a wonderful Sunday wherever you are, and some of you may already be in Monday. Okay, goodbye.